Hello out there. This is Philip underscore coming at you with another interview with a local Chicago cannabis professional. Really excited for this interview. I get the opportunity to talk to professionals from all over the city and also all over the country, and this will be no exception. So, to everyone out there, let me just announce that this will be an interview with the Budpass podcast, powered by SimploPro. And my guest is Alex Mayhugh, who is the Director of Cultivation Services for Green Industry Construction Services. If I don't mess up the name of his company. Sorry about the Alex, it's the braces. But without further ado, welcome, Alex. How are you?
Hey, Philip. Good. How you doing?
Good, good, good. Thank you for your time and thank you for being on the podcast with us. How you doing today?
Good, man. Good. The sun is out, so can't complain.
Yeah, melting some of the winter remnants that came to Chicago yesterday. For those that aren't aware, we're based in Chicago, and it was like a full snowstorm that
Yeah.
happened yesterday after it being 50 degrees all weekend. So just real and crazy. But no worries, Alex. Shifting back over to you, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and also what you currently do?
Yeah, absolutely. I started out as basically what you would call a cultivation technician about 10 years ago, and held all kinds of roles, mostly a grower or trim staff, harvest personnel. I did that for quite a long time, and then stepped up to an operations manager and then a director of cultivation. And now I am a director of cultivation services for Green Industry Construction Services, as you noted. So.
And what within your title, just to kind of break that down, what does the Director of Cultivation Services do?
So what we do at Green Industry Construction Services is we'll help design, build, plan, and oversee cultivation spaces for clients if they want help with that, because there's a lot of tricky roads to navigate in terms of how the whole plan is even going to come together. And so I assist with designing the facility with good manufacturing practices in mind and workflow efficiencies for the staff members there. And then I also help advise on equipment selections, costs of goods, how that will look all the way down the road, a year or 2 years from now. And then we basically get them growing.
Wow. So I mean, simple enough, right? I mean, you basically help to ensure people can grow, everything is within compliance, that they have a full functioning level of facility when it comes to growing product, and you design and build out everything.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. So if you need a license or want to buy a license and don't know what to do after that, it's a good resource.
Wow, incredible. And kind of within my own continued learning within the cannabis industry, I found that at least before I started having these conversations as well, is that I used to just see only certain occupations within the industry that came to mind, right? People who are bud tenders, people who are doing a lot of stuff in the front part of the overall cycle of the cannabis purchase, but really being able to explore a little bit more and learn about those that are really having different and in-depth impacts within the industry as it comes to, as you mentioned, with cultivation, and also like who specifically builds that out? How does that whole process work? So it's great to be able to speak with you. How did you get started with cannabis, and when did you kind of decide to pursue it as a career?
So I think it was around 2010, 2009. I went to an art school, so partaking, I guess, was pretty normal road. So, there was a lot going on in Denver at that time, and cultivation facilities were getting pretty big and pretty serious. And, I saw an ad on Craigslist that, needed cultivation help. And so I pretty much applied and went to the interview with the head grower, and, I'm in a button up, nice shirt. And he's like, well, when, can you start? And I was like, well, right now, if you're okay with that. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. We got tons to do. So I spent, the last half of the day in this nice button up hauling soil into the back of a truck for the afternoon to take out to a farm.
Wow.
So that was the start.
That's quite a way to what they say, kind of get started on your best foot forward, right? You know, you're in your best clothes, you know, all in dirt.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, just seeing the entire process, because in that era of cannabis indoor getting set up on a large scale, the roles weren't so defined in terms of like cultivation staff and post-harvest staff, or even what a trimmer really was, or a harvester, or integrated pest management technician. That stuff didn't really exist. It was just grower. So
Okay.
you were doing everything, literally everything. So, you know, about a year goes by of just everything. I mean, irrigation, cloning, trellising, pruning, pest spraying. I mean, you name it, just doing that for a solid year. That's when I realized that this is definitely a viable option. This is definitely a career in indoor farming. You know, it's no different than sprouts. I mean, there's a lot of differences technically, but being an indoor farmer was just a passion because it's, you know, 80 degrees Fahrenheit and 55 relative humidity all the time, every day.
Yeah. 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 And when did you notice that there started to be more of that segmentation within the overall farming role? Because you mentioned before when you started, it was just you did everything, and then as time went on, there tended to be more occupations with that, or things start to be a little bit more siloed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that also I think came with the territory of cultivation facilities getting larger. You know, because previously it had always been done in rooms or garages or tiny apartments, whatever. But now we were stepping up to like 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 square feet, and you're talking about 600 lights and all the plants, and there's just no feasible way that the title of grower can encompass all of the other activities that go with it. Larger buildings, and then also more companies that had indoor agriculture in mind getting involved. Because there was sort of this apprehension in the beginning, you know, as things got legal and medical. It's like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Are they for real? Are they not for real? Like, is, you know, it's just going to be tomorrow and we're not allowed to do this anymore? Or is this going to be something we're going to be doing in 20 years? So as it became cemented as, I mean, especially with legalization in Colorado, as it became cemented as real, that's when it was like game on, you know. Horticulture professionals, which was a great resource to draw from, because there's this clashing of the worlds of old school grower, you know, what they know, what they see all the time in terms of the plants, and, you know, traditional horticultural professional who's done it by the book through college, who understands, you know, the depths of plant mechanics and biology, and those two worlds sort of clashing. And that was extremely exciting. And that's when it really started to get into, okay, now we need to devote a department to an integrated pest management technician, a harvest staff, a post-harvest manager, because if the head grower is also doing a lot of the stuff that a post-harvest manager would do, the head grower is not doing all of the cultivation stuff. So that's when it really started to get, you know, segmented into these departments and these functions, instead of just an all-encompassing, you're a grower, so figure it out.
And you mentioned that that was like your first year. That first initial year was you really kind of getting all your experience and learning and basically all the ins and outs. Was that your main area in terms of how you gained your experience and learned your craft, or were there other experiences as well that you went through to also continue to learn?
Yeah, some hard ones and some good lessons. You know, the best teacher is failure, unfortunately. So there was a good period of, I don't know, 4 to 5 years where, you know, it was what I might call the old school way of doing it. There wasn't a lot of rhyme or reason into the amount of lights that we had in rooms, or why, or what kind of nutrient recipes we were running, or why. We were just making it work, and it worked well. And we, you know, kept track of things that worked well within those realms. And, you know, we made progress in terms of plant health and husbandry. But, you know, there was a distinct point when I became an operations manager of a 12,000 square foot facility, and the company had amazing resources in terms of founders and training programs that they set forth with the staff. And it was very rigorous in terms of, you know, real plant biology, you know, what you would learn in school, you know, because there are a lot of guys who had just made it to being managers or cultivation heads, and they didn't have that traditional training, which is, you know, a little intimidating, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, you know, I took every opportunity to learn from my mentors around me, the people I knew around me who I knew those things, and I listened as much as I could, even after I became an ops manager, listening to your partners, listening to your general manager, listening to your, you know, director of cultivation in terms of anything they want to spill off on you, these little tips and tricks, these little bits of advice into the how a plant works, because that ultimately drives everything we do. So, you know, that was a big turning point. And then when I became a director of cultivation, I had a facility that just had some really strange operations, and we had a whole failed crop, and that was the first time that ever happened to me. This is about 8 years into my career now, 9 years or so, and
Okay.
had a first like whole failed crop, and it was just devastating. But there was a lot of real hard lessons learned real quick in terms of how the HVAC equipment you select for a facility will perform or not perform, and how it's directly related to your irrigation style in these indoor facilities. So that was a rough lesson.
Okay. Okay. And with your career, are you from the Denver area, correct?
Technically from the northern Nevada area, but I lived in Denver for about 11 years.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you started in terms of the industry within Denver, and then went and experienced gained some experience within Nevada, and then now you're in Detroit.
Yep. Yep.
Any?
Yeah.
Pardon?
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No. And let me know if I had anything wrong with that. I want to make sure I have your trajectory here correct. But with each experience, or at least with each state, have there been like drastic changes compared to working in facilities in one state to another? Did you see their similarities? What was your experience with that?
Yeah, there's lots of similarities in terms of how the facility is going to work. There's definitely differences in types of equipment selection, and that always comes down to a company's budget, but that's kind of just neither here nor there in terms of geographical differences. Definitely regulatory differences are very different. In Denver, or in Colorado and in Nevada, you have to have this sort of lanyard badge on you at all times. You can get in kind of big trouble for it. Here in the state of Michigan, no such thing. You don't have such a thing. Totally different. And in Nevada, they make you get this sheriff's card that's something like a nurse gets or a doctor gets or something. So they know that, hey, this person, the sheriff's department needs to know who works in cannabis. It's just like a $75 fee they get you for every couple of years or something. So you roll in there smelling because you're just like pruned 150 giant mature plants, and now you have to go get the sheriff's card at the sheriff's department. It's a little weird. But Michigan has a lot of really amazing stuff going on.
Okay.
And the Illinois and Chicago area and Detroit area, I mean, it's fantastic to see the energy, the dedication, the passion. I mean, that I think is something that's pretty constant in any state you work in this industry. There is, I guess I would say no one, but I don't want to be held to it, but I have not met yet a person who works in the cultivation side of things, whether they're a harvester or trimmer or something, who is just there because it's just a job thing. You know, if you're in the cannabis industry, you're in this because it is passion, it is love, it is it is your way of life, you know.
Well, it kind of leads me to my next question, which is, you talk about passion and that people are in it because they love what they do. What do you love the most about what you currently do?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think helping head growers and business owners understand the connections in equipment selections, building designs, grow plan, and overall, what is it you're doing this for? Kind of aligning all the stars in these categories of what is your end product? What do you want to make? What's your passion? What kind of building do we design to do that? How do we get there? That is a lot of fun. It really is. I've seen a lot of bad things happen in facilities. I've seen a lot of great things happen in facilities. And, you know, having taken all of those really great things with me and doing my best to show the connections in why this kind of equipment, why this kind of plan, and what that means overall for the bottom line. Because the healthier the company is, the better life the employees have. And I've been a part of that in a couple companies where the employees had just amazing work lives. I mean, they were paid great wages, they had amazing picnics and barbecues, they had great benefits, they made a family, and it was awesome. You know, you take people who are in cannabis industry as a passion, and then they become this ginormous, you know, 300 plus people strong family. It is an awesome time. I mean, you always have someone to go do stuff with, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is building that team, building that whole vision so that people have really great lives at the end of it in this space.
Yeah. I mean, if you keep your people happy, you know, that just only permeates to all the other operations of the organization. You know, I mean, people are always going to be at the center of it, you know, which is just the way it is. And kind of shifting here, what do you think are kind of the biggest misconceptions people have about working in the industry, and probably when it comes to even putting together and designing, you know, a full facility?
Oh, that this is easy, that this is some, you know, put in money now, get out next year kind of easy deal. I mean, it is not. It is so the long road. This is not a quick path to riches or whatever. It's not. It is a labor of love, no doubt, no doubt. And there is a lot of really hard days in an indoor cultivation facility. I've heard people tell me before, or, you know, just in passing or whatever, if you know, let people, hey, what do you do? Like, I'm a cultivator, you know, cannabis, and they'll go, oh, cool. You must have great days. You must have it easy. Like, you know, I just had a 14-hour day where I had to wear a pesticide suit for 7 hours of it. And I'm exhausted because I've been walking on concrete all day, and it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and I had to haul hundreds of pounds of green waste. But no, it's not easy. You know, if you're dedicated and this is a real career for you and this is a real life path for you, there are hard work and hard days ahead. That is for sure.
Yeah. You know, I think that's really good advice for people, especially because there could be a misconception about this kind of get rich quick, you know, get in and get out kind of thought when it comes to cannabis.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you've gone through some life lessons, some professional lessons as you move through your career as, you know, someone that's been in for 10 plus years. What has kept you successful?
I would think that it is being a super good listener.
Okay.
Maybe that's something you could say about life in general, but I mean, listening to all kinds of things, listening to people, listening to, you know, you could say listening to plants, but listening to your equipment, listening to your staff. I mean, that's a big one. I think as a manager role, you know, there's a certain level you step up above plant cultivation. You know, there are definitely days when you have your hands in the weeds. You know, you're right there pruning with the guys, or you need to, you know, put on a trellis of a dozen tables and there's no one else to do it. So the manager standing right there, you got to do it. Those days aren't always there, but, you know, when you step up above, it's about growing your people. You know, it's cultivating your people, your staff, to do a really great job.
Yeah. Again, as you mentioned, keeping people at the center of it. And just kind of looking at the industry overall, where do you see the industry going nationally, maybe locally over the next couple of years? Any predictions on your end?
You know, I would say that they'll find some way to make it more easily transportable throughout the US. Maybe that is something they'd work on. I know banking is a really big, difficult thing to hop with a lot of these cannabis companies. Who do we bank with and all that stuff. So I think they'll probably try to make those things too, you know, easier for companies, which will then open up, if you happen to live in a part of the country where greenhouse growing is a really good idea. A lot of greenhouse growing, it's got its advantages and disadvantages, obviously, but the recreationalization of cannabis in the States only sets up for, just an explosion of jobs.
Okay.
Every state that goes medical and then eventually recreational is just jobs, jobs, jobs. There are so many things to do. It takes so many hands to make that dream, that vision reality, from a little seed all the way to a bag in a dispensary. There are so many hands that made that possible. Lots of jobs. That would be awesome. That's what I would want to see. Everybody should grow.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just so important to say that, because again, you can only kind of see, at least from what I've seen, a lot of the main professions within cannabis just being a couple of actual roles, and there are countless positions, countless opportunities, and because the industry is still growing and developing, it's really at its infancy here within the U.S.
Yeah.
Then there's things within construction, there's things within legal, there's things within you think about waste and HVAC and all kinds of different things that are applicable. It's certainly out there, and it's incredible. Any additional advice that you would give to someone who's looking to start a career within the cannabis industry?
Yeah, I would say find the hardest job around and be real good at it.
Okay.
There are lots of difficult things to do in a cultivation facility, and if you're wanting to be dedicated as cultivation staff, grow staff, trim staff, harvest, integrated pest management, showing your dedication is one way that'll definitely keep you there and keep you busy.
Well, that is fantastic advice. A great way for us to kind of conclude our interview with you, Alex. I want to, of course, leave you with the final word. So if you wanted to leave any additional knowledge nuggets or advice that you want to share, or any shameless plug, so any social media you want to share, news events, please feel free to share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. If obviously for what I do, if you have any thoughts about purchasing licenses or building out buildings, look up Green Industry Construction Services. We can help you out with all kinds of decisions that you would need, from how to grow, what to grow, and what the plan is. So that's pretty much it. And keep growing.
Okay, wonderful. I will include the website to Green Industry Construction Services in the post, so you can check them out, see more about what they're doing. Did you want to leave any social media for people to find you?
Oh yeah, I have an Instagram. It's Mayhugh Alex. I'll give you the link for that.
Okay, no worries. So we'll make it easy for you, everyone. Certainly, we'll put all that in the actual post. I want to thank you again, Alex, for taking the time to speak with me, to share your story, talk about the incredible career that you have and what you do to, in the whole scheme of this industry, actually create spaces for product and operations to actually happen. So it's really great to connect with you and to talk with you. To everyone out there, thank you all for watching and listening to Alex's story. We'll be back, of course, with another interview, another topic on the Budpass podcast. Again, this is Philip _ and representing our SimploPro, brand, excuse me, that's powering our podcast here. So thank you again, and we'll be back with you soon.